Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Lifting. We recorded today's show on July 5th, 2020. And in this episode, we'll be covering a topic that is widely kind of covered right now, but in our opinion, it may not be properly spoken about, or information and understandings may be missing. So we want to really try and do our best to have a conversation about the collapsing of the current infrastructure and why it is occurring. So we're going to cover, I guess, a few things here or there. We're going to have some pre-channelings put in today that Chris did and that we did earlier. So we're going to be doing some cutting to some other channelings as well. And we hope this gives you a little bit more to think about during this time. So before we get started, of course, we always want to do an affirmation and prayer. And so, Chris.
All right. Here's the affirmation and blessing or prayer. Blessings to all on hearing us now. It is said the only thing constant is change, and to create space, deconstruction before construction. May we all have the strength to do as our heart calls, walking on the razor's edge between constructive reconstruction and destruction's rage. So I will begin this. Some people might not be fans of what I have to say, but here we go. In recent times, I have been a witness to the largest false flag in history, COVID-19. Even though I do realize that not only does the deep state need to show their hand, but that the old falsehoods anywhere must also fall. Anything not being genuine or authentic crumbles to dust. This means the cabal and other groups needed to show their hand to everyone because it is within their contract to do so. This is why you are seeing them be so honest about their greedy and dark nature, and why you are also seeing the rise in the controlled opposition to the cabal, as well known as the Q movement. All controlled pieces must be out on the game board for public inspection, villains as well as heroes. Again, part of their contract to fell the villain at the hands of a would-be hero. Before I get off the Q train, I would like to point out that, or what should be the obvious. Why would a supposed resistance cell advertise itself? I mean, come on, people. Did the French resistance get on the radio to tell people how they were going to conquer the Nazis? No, they did everything in secret. Did the Allied powers advertise? No, they didn't. The Q movement may be saying everything that you want to hear, from the cabal arrests to the financial reset, which in part is happening, I will admit, but not as advertised, as well as even favoring the downtrodden, the targeted individual, and the everyday common people, or even say some of what we here at The Lifting say, in part, but it still is the same face under a different mask. The cabal must, under the terms of their contract, state everything that they are doing in order to make their magic work, even create the prize fight of the ages. This also means that what you are seeing, what looks to the untrained eye as a total, complete fall of civilization, either through controlled opposition rising or the fall of the business infrastructure and the cabal, is anything but. Aside from all that you have heard and seen on your lamestream media, there is another well-known infrastructure that is on the verge of collapse, and that is the UFO and paranormal community. Yes, I, Chris Jacobs, did indeed say it. As a paranormal investigator, as a truth seeker, psychic, and all-around UFO nutcase, said by some skeptics, I never thought that I would be at odds with those within my very own community. Let's see here. Those that are supposed to be on the side of truth. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. No matter where the truth may lead. Even though truth is in the eye of the beholder, you get the point. This is information that they're not wanting out the intricacies of the infrastructure. So forgive the stammering. They try to ping me when I'm trying to read this. This is why we write stuff down in the order we write it down, because of the fact they may try to mess with my memory later on certain facts and details. I have been saddened to see one paranormal and UFO event after another canceled due to COVID-19 or the state of emergency. Granted, some of the venue holders and not the events themselves were the ones to buckle and not the events. Those are the only events exempt from what I'm about to say, since you were not the ones to cave under pressure. You know who you are. I have known for years that not only aliens frequented these UFO and paranormal conferences, but also cabal moles known as sleeper agents to some and inborns to others. These pre-programmed and sometimes adoration-seeking people will usually infiltrate a group or set of groups in order to do one thing, eventually shut it down completely. Both by gradually coaxing group and event leaders to gradually course correct to a dead and final end, but also suggest ill-begotten alliances with deep state factions and interests, i.e. sponsors. Group leaders will usually go for this option, ignorantly buying into it because it is easy money in the moment that they need it. And who wouldn't buy into that at some point? Because if you're wanting money for an event quickly, the instant pudding of financial sponsorship. However, this is no different than Faust making a deal with Mephistopheles to have his business interests boosted considerably for a 20-year period, only to have it all taken away. This is what has happened here, folks, and this is why it is being energetically culled. As I said before, those that are not being genuine and have far too many skeletons in the closet are being ousted by these new energies. Or people that have karmic entanglements. I want to say that as well. You hear Viking and me talking about this as well. People that have some kind of entanglement they don't know about or won't allow to vent because of some idealism maybe they're holding on to, some energetics that they're holding on to, even a guide that they're thinking is good but is not. This is why I am constantly revetting information. I'm constantly reevaluating because of the magnitude and the speed in which these audits are taking place. One of the things that these groups need to be aware of is, as I stated above, alien and ET groups frequent these fairs and conferences. Granted, it is both ill-intended and well-intended groups that attend these conferences, along with military and cabal. But my point is that good ETs and humans also use these outlets for nudging the true information out in the open and planting nuggets and seeds of information geared towards a common goal, full and complete disclosure. Also, a word to the wise. If you are a UFO/paranormal group or conference, please, for the love of God, cut any and all corporate deep state ties immediately before you too succumb to this energetic restructuring. And it will happen. You may be shaking your head if you're seeing this and you have these sponsors thinking, oh, we must have this because you have relied on it for so long. But the idea is to build the foundation from something else entirely on your own. These conferences and fairs are needed now more than ever before, and it is your responsibility not to let the snake into the garden. Watch and vet your conferences more carefully for those who seek to destroy its infrastructure. Discernment is key here. Getting a sudden corporate handout out of the blue should be a sign to any would-be Sherlock Holmes not to proceed. As I have previously stated, the deep state has put moles within these groups and conferences in order to derail them from within, causing drama and infighting, along with causing other groups to lose interest in the subject matter, drift, or disband altogether. This happens even on the smaller paranormal group level, smaller UFO enthusiast group level, and on the Bigfoot conference and enthusiast group level. You get a mixture of people fighting over money, from drama to power grabbing and greed. However, no real work for the cause ever gets done. We are going to do future shows on both the good and the bad sides of paranormal and UFO groups in the future, but I believe you all get the point. Also, on a little bit of a side note, slight sidetrack, I wanted to bring up a good example of a sleeper agent or programmed agent. This is actually not a as well-known show, but watch the 90s show Nowhere Man. It is about a man who is erased from his life where no one remembers him, and he in turn attempts to help others that are targeted and afflicted. As he moves forward, he begins to see after images and things that aren't there. It is discovered that these are memories bleeding to the surface, and that he is the agent responsible for all of the targeting and erasures that happen to people throughout the show. The Cabal planted him with a new personality and a quest to save the world to disguise the fact that he was destroying the worlds and livelihoods of the people all along. And I wanted to actually say this does happen, and this does happen from within these paranormal, UFO, and Bigfoot conferences. And if you're ahead of one of them, I am not dumping on you in the slightest. I am not doing that. But I need to say you have to look around you more carefully. Who are you partnering with? What organizations you are partnering with? And what is the reason and the foundation for your group based on? Why are you doing it? Are you doing it for capital primarily, or are you doing it for the information getting out? We all need the money to come in. I'm not disputing that part. And an instant pudding handout from some sponsor or corporate handout, that would seem like a miracle, but it is a bribe. It is a bribe, basically, to get you to consent to have these agents come in. You must consent to this, or they wouldn't be able to do it. On some level, you must consent to this. So by you accepting that, they're going to filter in people that you don't know, that you can't account for as the community grows. And those people will always either have an opposing viewpoint, have the attention away from what your ideals are, a little of both, or they'll just be there to hold the energy space and drag that vibration down. So watch for these people and make sure to have no ties to deep state or deep state interests. So, Joanna?
So, part of the conversation that we really wanted to talk about again, bringing some of this out now, was because it is all being churned up so you can see it. There's nothing that currently anyone could have done if somebody had already been in business and had been for a while of something that really wasn't as it appears. Mm-hmm. And so, part of our conversation is about when the dust settles, okay? Because when the dust settles, what are you going to do? Because the goal is you don't want to see the end to things, but things are going to have to restructure again after all is said and done. And it's an opportunity to revisit the why you're doing it and what you're trying to do, and how are you going to obtain it? How are you going to do it? Do people have to touch one another? Can things be done remotely? Can conferences be done or over Zoom or this, that, and the other? So it's going to be a lot of different mechanisms that are probably going to be put into play in the future, okay, that are going to be done probably by smaller groups so that they don't have to necessarily invest and get into things with potential sponsors and different things that they have to answer to. So there's going to be changes that occur on that level. In the infrastructure as well, we're obviously talking about a lot of different things, be it how children are now educated. Okay, the school system's falling apart, right? Everyone can agree that, I feel sorry for those. I feel sorry for all children, but I have to tell you, my heart is a little out there for those in the university settings in certain areas that really require a grasping of concepts, because for a lot of people transitioning into this, we're doing everything remotely. There currently is a thought of surviving the semester and just getting a grade or getting a passing versus actually learning anything. And so now, there are certain key areas, learned areas, where people really do have to expand their knowledge greatly during the collegiate university time. And is that actually occurring, or is it the big stagnation? So, it's an interesting time with all the collapsing and the learning, and different things are going to have to probably come from that, as well. When you talk about the collapsing of the things around us, be it, do you have work? Do you not have work? Are you being able to maintain the roof over your head? Are you being able to buy the foundations of, groceries and food? What is really going on? It's all now becoming a very hard struggle for some people, and we definitely recognize that. I wish I had something easy to say, because it's a very hard concept to accept that we wanted this change, we wanted to move, didn't want something anymore, but to really understand the ramifications of that wave of change in order to uncover what we didn't want and to collapse it. Did we really know that what the ramifications to everybody and our neighbors and ourselves, did we really know what that meant? I don't think so.
No.
I really don't.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did at all. But here we are now in the midst of it. And so, having grace for yourself, having grace for people around you, how do you want to help out your neighbor? Or are you still caught up, as, was said, I guess it's going to be said in the channeling or whatever, or do you just want to kill your neighbor? I mean, what do you really want? So the interesting thing about everything that we're going through right now is it really is being driven by the consciousness of the people in the experience that they are currently in. So I hate to tell you guys this, but you have to accept responsibility for that. That's us. That's not just them, but that is us. And so one of the interesting things, that has come up in conversation and has been questioned to us is probably important to talk about now. And that is the concept of opening your mind to this may not just be about the cabal versus us, but if you think of everyone as a thread in this amazing tapestry, okay, the cabal may be a few threads that you're having to deal with in these negativity, but we are all an individual thread. So what if, in order to move forward, your soul has a desire to gain balance of certain things over lifetimes? Now, some people call it karma. I like to refer to it as needed balance, because I don't think there has to be a 100% balance in all things. If you've had 20 lifetimes, or probably more, of being victimized, do you have to balance out every single component of every single life you've had? I don't think so, because probably 19 of those lives were the false reincarnation grid. But do you want to have balance of understanding what it's like to be a victim and to be a perpetrator? So there's going to end up being the totality of the experience amongst lifetimes. So as things are going on, there could be also the rush, let's say, the rush of experience to balance out personally. So to balance out from past lives of maybe you were an aggressor and now this life you're getting kind of the bad side of the effects of all this.
That's what I meant by the karmic cycles earlier from what I said. Some of the businesses shut down because of things like that, and I know people hate to hear this, but that means they more likely did something to somebody that owned a business like that in the past or some similar situation. Now, like we said in the Black Death video, where some of these cults about the the cabal could bring in the whole some of the fake Renaissance stuff. Yes, but I believe we're going to be accomplishing a civilization that is beyond all of that, beyond what was said there. That was just a mirroring in history of what they were trying to accomplish, and they did on some level because it's already popped up this year. But the rest of that equation is some of the energetic restructuring and completing cycles.
And completing cycles and completing personal cycles. So, you know, am I saying, I guess what I'm saying is that, again, just put your thoughts for the highest good, whatever that may be. And, you know, and we're not going to understand. I think that's the hardest thing. Everybody wants the understanding now. They want to be able to see things from a whole different level. I don't think people are going to be able to see things from, if you've been here as long as some of us with so many lives under our belts, you're not going to be able to have that kind of perspective while you're here. There has to be, and you know, some people call it faith, there has to be some generalized understanding. Do you believe in a karmic balance or not? Do you believe in a balance to move forward? Do you believe in these things? And then you just have to be, there has to be also something within that, as well as, you know, overage that still is in play, but not everything is overage either. So it's complicated. And that's one of the things you guys have to really accept, is how complicated this is to take out of this immense tapestry that which we no longer want, while still maintaining the certain concepts of what we do want. It's very difficult. It is, you know, in a sense of time consuming. However, from perspectives of others, we're moving at a breakneck pace. This is, you know, really unbelievable. So I think it's really, really important for people to just be gracious to themselves, be gracious to others, understand, you know, the winds and how they're blowing, and things are coming to you and drifting past you. They may not even be you. You may just be picking up on some of those energies with other traumas and other things that are just kind of bleeding by, and you got to give yourself a moment to take a breath to let it go by and understand that in those types of energies, it's not always bad to have more time alone to yourself. Because, you know, would you want to be reacting to all those energies all the time, or that are going around and around a bunch of people? So sometimes it's actually good to have a little sequestering while some of it's going on. Do I believe that is how humanity should be and what I want to see in the future? Are these the changes, the new normal that we want to see from the COVID? Absolutely not. But sometimes when things are really hard, it isn't bad to step back and have a little more time to yourself to allow for these adjustments to occur. So that's going on as well. So even if COVID didn't happen, you'd find that people were being a little bit more to themselves. So it's complicated right now with everything going on, with the cabal having to go ahead and play out what their plans were. These aren't plans that were necessarily derived yesterday. These are plans that have been in play for a long time, and they're playing them out. Now, they are the mentality of to the last breath. The other thing that's, you know, going to occur again, which we've already said before, is that in this changing infrastructure, there will be an attempt to maintain the basis of the infrastructure in the way they want to see something run, i.e. a recreation. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you know their names, we've already said they're not the top of the infrastructure. So to let loose some of these people to take the fall as they reinvent, to try to bring in new faces who look kinder and gentler, of course they're going to try stuff like that. Of course it's going to happen. So are we sad for the people that they let loose to fall under the bus? No, they weren't innocent. They were a part of this, and you know, they need to experience as well, for balance, the flip side of what they put out. So again, so if you've been nasty in a bad lifetime and treated people well, you're going to get the other side of that, so that you experience it. So will some of these people, be it in this lifetime, be it in other lifetimes. They're going to get the totality of something this great, the completing both sides of the experience. So it's very complicated. I know everyone gets tired. Part of this is an endurance test. We said that at the very beginning of the year, that 2020 would be an endurance test. And I certainly stick by that now, because, you know, you just want to get up and just say whatever, and then you actually give up your ability. You're giving it up to somebody else to make decisions on how you want your world to be. And that is a very dangerous and sad place to be. So one of the areas as well that, you know, we've spoken hard about is just say no. Okay. We actually had some feedback from people who maybe didn't know if saying no was a good thing. You know, they're confused. What does no mean? How do you manifest no? What is it all about? So, you know, we wanted to take a moment to give more thought to that. An interesting statement that somebody made was, and it was in the statement of no, but then they had another statement where resistance, do you remember that? It
is right here, actually.
Okay. Oh, and what you resist persist. And I thought, interesting. So the whole thing was, for me, the question is, how do we say no? I didn't read the whole thing. You clicked it. Okay. How do we say no? How do we manifest differently? There's a very fine line between saying no and resisting what is, and what you resist persists. So when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. I think I understand the statement. Now, what I'm going to say is no is a completely different vibration and a different intention than resist. You have to think of things as a desired experience, okay? Resistance, and to experience what it is to resist, is totally different than saying, I'm not participating. And you mean it. I'm not participating. So they're not interchangeable words, and the intention behind those two words really isn't the same. So if what you resist persists, well, yeah, until you're ready to be over that experience of what resisting is. It's like hoping. You know, is hoping going to give you anything? No, because you always want to be in, I'm going to learn about what it is to hope, or what is. So when we talk about manifesting, and you want to get what you want, there's certain ideals, you know, that you have to realize that you're getting what you want. If you want to fear something and you're afraid, you're going to bring in more fear because you want the experience of what it is to be afraid. If you want to resist something, then you want the experience of what it is to resist. So more things like that come in. The intention of what we mean by no is no, not in my reality, not in the world I'm in. No, I don't want this, period. Not playing. Okay? And so part of what our understanding is, some of these things that are coming up out of the ditches, that are coming up to light, are coming up because humanity really started to hear this is going on, and there was a collective no. We do not want pedophiles. No, we do not want these certain things happening. We're not going to participate in it. We don't want it. It's not going to be in our reality. That is not resisting. That is a definite, it's not allowed in my sandbox. And so, you know, and you say it in an intention that is extremely assertive, it's like, I'm not wavering on this. This is like, you know, this just isn't, because what is what I'm currently saying. What is that people are treating each other better. People are caring. People do not do this to children. People do not do this to animals. People do not do this. Okay. And, you know, so that's the difference between using the word no as you say, if someone, let's just use sexual abuse, there isn't a very strong no that occurs sometimes where you end up in these cases in court, he said, she said, because was there really a clear no? It happens a lot. Am I saying that you will always get your way? Well, no, the strongest torsion field wins. Okay, I'm sorry to say. However, I can guarantee you that you have not even begun to use your own personal torsion field. So the odds, if you really learn how to manifest by saying what you do and you don't want in your life, and it's not in the future, it's current, present moment, things start to change and your reality becomes what your expectation is. And so for me, this whole concept of, I'm gone far beyond resistance. So it's an interesting thing. So the world around is going crazy, but some of my very personal experiences in my day-to-day life reflect my expectations. And that's what you need to get. This starts local. This starts right around you. What are your firm expectations of what you want? And what does that mean? Because when you start to assert them, this is it. You may be under a false impression that what that means is that thus this person is going to change. Versus thus, me and this person don't need to be around each other anymore. So what becomes hard is that it goes from being an assertion of no to a negotiation. Because then you're like, well, do I really want this person? And I'm like, well, if they don't change, maybe we can just have kind of days that are good and they're not all bad. And instead of, but if you put out the intention of absolutely not, no way, this is an expectation of how we will interact or this, that, and the other, it's either going to change or a greater distance is going to occur, a bigger rub. And that is hard for people to want to experience. And so there becomes this wavering of what that word then in their intention changes potentially. So, but I just need to say that there's nothing wrong with no. No, the word no is only a verbal representation of a frequency of intention. That's what it is. Every word you use is a vibrating frequency of intention. So you have to decide this is why it's all inner work. You got to decide what you mean, what you really want. And then your words will more strongly reflect that when you put the power of them behind, power of the intention truly behind it. But you have to know yourself well enough to really know what you want. So I would not, certain words, I would love to see go away because it just shows a continued experience of something that I really don't want any more part of. I'd like to move on to something else. So I hope that helps a little. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, the difference is, when, say, some bad guy or something is showing up and I'm resisting it, I'm putting a shield up. Then I basically tell it, no, you cannot do this anymore. There is a difference. Resisting means you're still resisting, it's still here. No, you're telling it, you're banishing it from your reality altogether. And you have to have that intention behind it. You must assert that intent, can't have any fear behind it. And you absolutely have to hold the ground, absolutely. It cannot be, well, if I change this little bit and this little bit, maybe it won't be as bother. Or maybe if we leave it alone for a little while and we don't want to disturb the grounds, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. No, you have to change the infrastructure of how this works and how you're operating within the etheric infrastructure. You know how many times I've heard people say, well, if we don't bother it, maybe it won't bother us. Or we don't want to rock the boat. we don't want to disturb anything. And that is a form of consent. I just want to say that is a form of consent. Never do that. Resisting, you're still putting your shields up, but you still haven't told that being no. You have not said, no, you are not allowed here. No, this is my sovereign territory. No, I hold this ground and you don't.
Right. There's still an assumed experience with it
Mm-hmm.
when you're resisting.
When you're resisting, there's still an experience, something you're learning from there. When you say no, you've just concluded that experience. And you do have the right to captain your own ship here. Now, I'm saying maybe True Benevolent Source Creator has some other things that might be in mind, but you are still saying no. You're saying, this is my ship. I'm the one that drives it. And to basically resisting, again, putting the shields up, good thing, but you're still having to say, no, you cannot be in this immediate space.
And there is something true about not having the fear, because, when you have the fear behind it, or no, I hope, or something like that.
Yeah, that's where people go, well, I hope that worked.
Yeah, really, I hope. So again, that's where people again have to then take responsibility again for what is their own intention. Because if you want that door shut, you have to shut it,
mm-hmm.
and you don't reopen it.
And you slam it hard.
And
yes.
And you don't allow it in, and you basically, fear, the I hope, I think I did, those are the lack of confidence in your own intention, which then opens the door, because it potentially can open the door, let's say, to still allow for an experience, or an experience like to still be, potentially occurring. And that's actually, I think, where a lot of people are. I think learning the fine art of saying no and what that really means, the energetic meaning and the intention of what you put out when you say that, if it is crystal clear, non-wavering, you will feel the difference in your energies when you're putting that out there, and the change that can come along with that. And again, you have to be up to what changes that actually could mean by making those types of assertions. And you have to be ready for it. And you have to realize that, if I'm drawing this line in the sand of I'm not accepting this experience anymore, period, that it may just not cause change in the other's experience. It's going to cause potentially changes in my experiences too, which may for a while seem uncomfortable, until you feel settled from making that change of not wanting something. And that's a little of what's actually going on now. A lot of individual souls had to say no to what we're currently experiencing. Now we're going through the uncomfortableness of what that change means. But it took a lot of saying no. And on a soul level, even if people do not realize they're participating in it, most souls on this earth did not like the way things were going on. Okay, so, I just hope that gives a little bit better clarity, but do not think the word no and resist are the same thing. They are not. Two totally different experiences. So see them differently. And so if that means that statement that you said is correct, resisting causes more of its persistence. Absolutely. Completely agree. Just see that everything is not related, that they're not related. What the meaning is behind that intention are not the same. Mm-hmm. So I hope we answered that. Something else that we wanted to bring up during this show to talk about the collapse of the infrastructure, I found was really interesting what's been happening to some seers lately. One of the things that's been happening is that seers all of a sudden can't see past necessarily November. Mm-hmm. However, they're seeing a little bit further into the future, and the year 2023 keeps coming up. Yes. And so I find that a very interesting thing. And so we want to kind of talk a little bit about that now. And, let's make logical sense of it. Try to put a little bit of logic behind it. Does it really make sense? I've always said, does it really make sense that no one can see anything? But why the year 2023?
Yeah.
And is it, when that happens, who's on the chessboard? Is it only benevolence, or is there a little bit of malevolence interfering or whatever going on? So we're going to have that discussion.
Okay, this is going to take me a minute to compile the information. The very first time, I will not mention the names of the people that were involved in the sessions, unless they say that I can include them. But I'm going to start with one that was quite some time ago. And this not only involves some of the channelings that people had about China, and how to watch for China. You've been hearing that since the 90s. Sylvia Brown even mentioned this back in the 90s, believe it or not. And several other seers back in the 90s mentioned what I'm about to say. And you've heard me say that the cabal was trying to turn China into the next boogeyman. And doesn't necessarily make them a boogeyman on their own actions. But I'll start with this. Year 2023, and please, for the love of God, people, do not co-create what I'm about to say. Just say that it is floating and not fact.
And that is our point. That really is the point we're trying to make. That currently there is floating visions, floating information being put out there in the ethers regarding this time.
Just like how people are always talking about the big one. No, that was a negative Syrian and Orion ploy to get you to destroy basically that part of the country, and with your own co-creation, since they couldn't seem to do it themselves. So, and any of these dark timelines. What happened? First component of this, reading somebody that was from China, and the time stream, as it were. And I know for some you're going to say all time is one. There's no such thing as time. I get this. Aside from this, I'm going to explain it in other terms. China, 2023, I was able to step into that version of Vikesh and see that the European nations had bombed the crap out of China, got fed up with their shenanigans that they were pulling this year and consecutive years up to 2023. Of all the things that have been going on, including anything you're hearing about COVID, all this other stuff, and any of the shenanigans they're pulling now, they secretly have even now invaded other countries and areas that you don't know about. And some of our American forces have had to quell them. This is all secret underground stuff that has been going on. And they are being geared and prepared and prepped for being the next, bad guy. And have they done bad things? Most certainly, yes, they have. But I'm not disputing that part. But what were they prepped by and why? That's what you need to ask. Who is the force beyond them that prepped them or set thereof? And I saw that part of the timeline. Next fragment of this was in a different part of the world. This would be in Toronto, Canada. And I saw a strange weapon being deployed where this energy was going down people's throats and absorbing their adrenochrome and monatomic gold levels. It was more of a harvest taking place. And the energies connecting thereof, and they were connecting with specific people. It was orbiting those specific people almost like moons, as you always tell me, as you always hear me tell you. If you've been through time travel programs and through 20 and backs, or involved in something like that, time orbits you like a moon, or history surrounds you. You become almost a fixed point while things change around you. And it's a hard concept to understand, but can you stop that moon from orbiting? Oh, most certainly you can. You can derail it all you want, all you can. Well, this, the next portion, was in Wisconsin, where I saw, where you've heard me speak about the frog-like creatures on little mini recordings, so I'm not going to go into their entire history. You can just look back on what I said. I saw that the rains were going to continually fall in Wisconsin, flood part of the area, and allow these frog creatures to come in. And they ended up culling people that were in that area. Again, not solid, not fact, fluid. Next thing, you've heard me talk about the military units that I had been seeing that were in a different frequency, that they had to pass through a doorway or a gate to be able to enter a different frequency, very much like an episode of Next Generation, Star Trek Next Generation, where there was a similar process being done by Romulan spies, where they would phase themselves and they could walk through walls and do all that other stuff. Very similar procedure, where people see them as ghosts and shadow people. They do not see them as active flesh and blood military. Sometimes they have dog DNA in them, kind of like a werewolf soldier hybrid. I've seen this as well. It doesn't mean all dog people. I'm not saying that. They also disguise themselves as Sasquatches. I've seen that as well. So channelers, pay close attention who you're talking to, please. These could be these soldiers waiting for orders to do something. But this leads me to the next portion of this. When I got done with the read that was about the rain in Wisconsin, and you've heard this on other recording, but I will repeat this as a bullet point. I saw that in this household, in this area, there were black tank-like vehicles going through the area, owned by these same out-of-phase military. That the ones that were resisting were in black, not black, but brown uniforms and using old carbines and old muskets and old firearms that were not high tech. They were old and like pre-World War I type of technology. And these former cops and former military were fighting these other guys. Saw that here, even the smoke coming up from the streets, everything. And there were two soldiers laying in the house aimed in two different directions at this. If you want to hear that, there's in the True You I posted, there's another fragment of that recording at the very end of that. Now this goes to California, and the supposed big one, like I just mentioned, where former ant people tunnels were being blocked by those frog creatures, in hopes people would try to go down there again, like in a previous Great Flood. Like, say, if California would break off or something, people would use that access point and they would grab them. Well, again, not solid, fluid. Now this goes to another point where I saw one that was set here in Arizona, where the town of Jerome was being used as a stronghold. And this particular area, this would be strategically and militarily sound if you would use Jerome, because it oversees the entire valley. All of it, from Sedona all the way through Prescott, Cottonwood, all of them. It sees everything because it's right on the edge there. So this would be strategically sound to do this. And I saw in, again, 2023, where people were held up in this, both good military, the ones in the brown uniforms, brown camouflage, I should be more specific, and people from all over were held up there because Jerome, you can't hardly fit cars in there, let alone a tank. So it winds all the way up there. That would be the perfect place to hold up in. You could have supplies up there, everything. Well, I began to go from this point and try to roll forward in the timeline to see how in the hell it ended up like that. I saw 2021 calm, and then some little bit of agitation towards 2022, rolled it over again. saw towards the end of 2022, it was getting really, people were getting really irritated at something. And then 2023 rolls around and ta-da, this is what was going on. Well, it was very strange how all of these components were all linking up to one another. And there were even two more, like in areas of Montana, I was seeing resistance cells there, armed resistance cells, areas of California, Washington, Oregon, I was seeing areas of resistance cells. And I was seeing that the programmed military and cops were all doing what you see them doing now in some cases. They don't hear that, they shouldn't be doing something, but yet they're doing something. I'll just abbreviate it there without ranting. But yeah, I was seeing that all over the place. And even as a not a child, but as a teenager, I had this dream sequence that was set 1,000 years after this time frame. It was set in 33 and 29, I believe, or something like that, is what was in that time frame. And the Earth looked totally different. It was like purple colored, and the skies were like a magenta coloring, and the sun was different. It was we had the brown dwarf that we were orbiting when the solar system had totally shifted over. What had happened was, I remember approaching, and I do remember this even this long, seeing an old like a shop of some sort with a shopkeeper inside, and there were these two TVs that were sitting outside, kind of something like an old shack of a shop you'd see in the South or some style like that. And I remembered seeing these two televisions. One it was a memorial that China was being made to, even after that long, being made to perform ceremonies honoring what they had done in this time frame, whatever that was. The second television was that of a tank that was shooting at a wall, but it was using some kind of nuclear or plasma-looking ammunition, and it was black. And it looked like a regular tank, like something you would see, like with the turning turret and neck. It looked like that, and it had this kind of upside-down trapezoidal shape. And there are other ones that are reverse of that it's kind of like this box-looking thing that actually fly. And that also leads me to another part of this, where someone thought they were dreaming and seeing these things in the sky, aiming beams and shooting things into people's head. This person lives near the George Floyd area. And this is where that was happening. That's another component to this. This thing in the future, it was actually a time that was outside of normal time, so we were able to see changes occur as well. And those TVs were representing some of those changes or shifts. And this, it was like something in this time was being honored. So there was something from there that was kind of reaffirming something that needed to be repaired here. And even though I omitted in some of the edits of my books, I omitted that whole chapter about the 1,000 years after this time frame. There's still some validity that holds there, even a small amount, saying that it is fluid. It needed to be changed. Even from that time frame, that could have been a parallel timeline looking at this one, for all I knew. And somebody was basically saying, hey, these things need to be altered. It may not be as concrete as you once thought. And saying that China's next boogeyman, even from the 90s, all these seers were fed this information, not only about the big one, but about China, going, look at China, look at China, look at China. And again, have they done a lot of wrongs? Yes, they have. I am not disputing that. But do we need to placate the world's next boogeyman? No. Do I believe that this timeline that I was seeing and keep getting, well, not really sucked over to, but just kind of flowed over as it overlays as it's not overlay. I'm trying to describe this in something more concrete. It's more like the intuition pulls me that way, and it's not a hard pull. It's just like if I got in a raft and went down the river. That's essentially over like that, and then all of a sudden I'm in the midst of it. And this has popped up in multiple reads. These are multiple reads that I am talking about crammed into this little area, and I've been able to compile and figure out what leads to what. But there is a fine line between co-creation and intuition here. Very fine line. Do I feel we need to course correct here? Yes, I do. I feel this is a course correction that is absolutely needed. And I will tell you a channeling that came in as of this morning that was about this very subject and about these synchronicities that are popping up. And this also will feed into a show that I want to do on paranormal and what is a false synchronicity and what is a real synchronicity. We won't go into that portion right now, but suffice to say, this will be something in the not too distant future. So, and before I read who this is, who or what this is from, I'll say who it was from. You might be familiar with a being by the name of Trebor Yetny, if I'm saying that right. Famous being channeled by the name by a channel by the name of Rob Guthier, and this particular being, I've met him before. You know, in a couple of people's sessions, he has come through, but he came through extremely strong. And I am going to say now that the information here is good. Before people say, "Oh, you didn't channel Trobietny," just hold there for a minute. I'm saying now what I know to be Trobietny, and the being that I have met and have vetted, called himself Trobietny and fits the description that Rob Guthier gave for Trobietny. A type of reptilian who is living underground, but from a different star originally. And I believe that star is Capella, right near the Taurus and Perseus constellations there. So there we are. I needed to say that. So if people say, "Oh, you didn't channel Trobietny," I'm just saying this is what this appears to be. So now I will go on to the channeling. Does anyone benevolent wish to weigh in on the 2023 synchronicities? And someone said, "I do." And I asked, "Do I know you?" "Yes, you do. You do indeed. My name is Trobietny. I do channelings for multiple seers. So yes, we have indeed met. Thank you for coming today. What is it that you wish to relay about what I have seen?" "It is true that you have seen a shadow of time, but watershed event or not, time is as fluid and as stream." Hold on, I have to reread that. I'm sorry. "It is true that you have seen a shadow of time, but watershed event or not, time is as fluid stream with fresh water, fish, and plants." He tended to talk with a bit of an accent, so it was hard to actually bring that in. "Do you understand my meaning?" "Treb, I do understand. The current still flows, the fish still swim, and the plants still grow, meaning the flow of what set of events may seem to have altered the flow to itself, but in all actuality, the stream has never been diverted. You are so close, yes, you are most correct in your analysis of the events, but one fact still does remain. There is an event coming, but what shape that event takes is up to the will and the fortitude of the people. Do you truly want to kill your neighbors over the porridge being too cold, or your local governor over the porridge being too hot? Or would you rather be within the Goldilocks zone, as it were, of events? Meaning, would you rather see what is needed to occur come to pass swiftly and quickly to make room for greater and better things? I said, yes, Trev, I would, but will there be more conflicts within the Goldilocks zone? Yes, there will be, but only those within the silencing of forked tongues and not with a gun or a sword. Do you understand my meaning? Yes, I believe that I do. The silencing of forked tongues means that in order to hit that zone, one mustn't do one thing and speak another thing entirely. Yes, good. Now practice this mantra. And this is the mantra he gave. I'll see if I can read my own writing here. I do not see nor become a forked-tongued person within the self. I see and become oneself, myself, a sovereign self, myself as free and without conflict of the forked tongue, nor hold judgment of others with lack of fortitude. I am selfless, but know when to tend to my own garden. Even the soil itself must be reborn. Do you practice this often? Do you understand me, Chris? I said, yes, Trev, I do, thank you. And I believe that would be the end of that. But not just focusing on who said it, focusing on what was said. This I do believe he was basically saying this can be rewritten. It is actually somebody's trying to completely imprint this. And what I mean by watershed event, what the definition of that is a fixed point in time. Do I believe that in 2023, what is trickling back and causing me to see this, is there something energetic there? Do I believe in event? No. Do I believe that people are the event and coming to certain realizations? Yes. Do I believe in fixed points in time? Yes. Do I believe in all-out war as inevitable? No. I believe there are certain things going on now as we utter them and as we proclaim them to be changed, they are changed. And I'll report more on this as I see more of these things pop up, but I do switch them and change them as they come about, and it's a constant course correcting. It's like you're on a ship, and you're constantly have to course correct around waves, course correct around icebergs, course correct around rocks, sandbars, all of those. You're constantly course correcting, and as you do this, you're actually doing the appropriate inner work that you're supposed to do. That is the course correcting and taking command of your own ship. And by doing that and doing what we said before, by saying no firmly to any of these intrusions, you are also constantly course correcting past all of this. And then one of the most important things is do you want that conflict? I don't. Some of you are thinking, well, revolution is inevitable. We have to fight these guys off no matter what their agenda is. Come on, people. They have Star Trek level technology here. They want you to give in to their gaslighting here. They want you to do that so that they can crack the hammer down, so that those soldiers that are in that other frequency get the order to come after you. Don't give in to that.
Because some of them really are things. I go back to the Georgia Guidestones.
Mm-hmm.
So if you read number 1 in the Georgia Guidestones, it's to bring the population down.
Yes.
A calling.
Yes.
Okay, so please understand that any excuse for a culling is great for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to understand that I always say keeping people in those lower 3 chakras. You keep people in the survival mode or the lower 3 chakras and whatever, then that is always going to benefit the moves and the chess moves of the negativity. It's actually coming out of that and realizing who you are and what you really want, not what you think you have to do. That's the different things. People have gotten into the mindset of eye for an eye, or that, war begets war, right? But who started those wars? Really? You started the war, even if you had to participate? You started that? Or someone else started that war? You didn't start the war. You may have participated in it somehow, but did you really start that war? Did you? So when you say war begets war, there's a difference between someone who is of such a war nature they keep creating wars versus being caught up in having to participate in it somehow. So it's not the same thing. And so this is kind of that opportunity for people, again, to not speak with forked tongues, in that sense of becoming your genuine, authentic self. And what do you really want? And do you really want these things or not? And you then have to identify within yourself what you want. And then that's the frequency you're going to put out. But then you can't allow that wiggle room for negotiation. You have to be, it's like we say with no. With all of this is where we go back to no. No, that's not going to be my 2023.
No.
Maybe yours. It ain't going to be mine.
Do I think something important's happening then? Absolutely. But it's being slightly overshadowed, but from what I've seen with these negative threats, just say no to this. No, you do not want this. No, you as stupid as some things that are happening would you really want to put a gun to your neighbor's head because they've been an idiot? Would you really want to assassinate your local authority figure because they've been an idiot? You might say that behind closed doors. You might be yelling at the TV going, I would just shoot this person. But if that scenario would come around, would you actually want to do it? No, I don't think that you would. People tend to be all smoke and no fire when it comes to that. But where you need to be all fire and no smoke is when it comes to saying no to that actually taking place, and not saying, well, we want this to happen because then we can resist the government, we can take it over. And what would you do if you took it over? Come on, people. What exactly would you do if you took it over? Why not let this energetically collapse on its own and changing things within the whole silent army persona that you hear Viking and me talking about, the transformation of the energies, and leave it at that.
But even when people say that, they don't finish the whole story, because if they would just get to the end, what does it look like at the end? So you're going to take over the government. Yeah. What are you going to do? Well, they haven't thought much past killing everybody. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do next? How are you going to make it better?
Yes, and
I want to hear your thoughts of what does that look like? What does it sound like? What does that taste like? What does that feel like? What does that world look like? You may not get too many answers because they haven't gone to the co-creation side. They haven't
gone to the end of it. They actually said this in Doctor Who at one point, when this alien race was actually taking different human forms. They had the ability to shapeshift. Humans were fighting them. They were fighting humans. And the doctor was trying to get them to coexist. He went to the alien side, said, okay, say you take over. What's that going to look like? What have you planned for the aftermath of all of this? Are you going to take the place of humans in their jobs? Are you going to build things? Are you going to create art, music? What will those musical instruments look like? How will you play them? How will you learn how to do that? What will this look like? Real war is ugly. You don't want this. And he went through his whole experience with the time wars and all this other stuff. But that's the point in that was being made. Think ahead. What would that look like if you took over the government? Is it just you planting your flag on the damn White House and going, woohoo? No. What's after the woohoo? What are you going to do after that? See, there's something.
And so lend your energies to the what does it look like after that, but don't pay much mind into how it occurs. Lend your energies into this is what I want to experience, and what does that look like?
Yes.
And then lend your energies there with a firmness that is what is happening. We're going there right now as we speak. It is happening. It is going to happen. It is going to be in my lifetime. I will have experiences like this to reaffirm it right now, period. This is how it's going. And then, you will start to have experiences. If you are firm enough in your intention, you will start to have experiences that will give you the synchronicities to build your confidence that this is how you co-create. And so I think it's very interesting. Again, I don't think we can reiterate enough that these are the visions that are currently floating in the ethers for seers and different people who have these different levels of abilities to pull down. So the question is becoming, why and who's doing it? Okay. And so it could be both. It could be benevolence that's trying to bring things to our attention so that we're smart enough now to realize I don't want to get caught up in that. No. Or it could also be that of a malevolence that is trying to co-create something that will be for their interest, not for yours.
Yes.
So you have to, again, discern, and then take responsibility for your intentions and learn to co-create something that you do want versus feeling victimized and helpless and letting something else come this way because you are not asserting yourself and your intentions.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully we've given people a little better understanding of what's currently going on out there. We actually think people are starting to have these visions a lot, and you're never going to hear about them. They're just going to keep this stuff to themselves because it may scare them.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go ahead and talk about it in order to try and just snuff it out.
Snuff this out. Talk about the elephant in the room right now, because there's a lot of people that are seeing these things and feeling these things that are very closeted channelers, closeted psychics, afraid of ridicule or just afraid. And I know damn well you're thinking this. You're probably watching this video and other videos now, trying to figure these things out as to why these things are coming up. Well, this is why these things are coming up. If you're a closeted psychic, trench worker, whoever you are in the background, if you feel that there's this negative event coming, don't make it so concrete. And I'm saying this not only to my own kind, but to everyday people as well, to the psychics that have been trained for years to co-create this particular time, saying, oh, it's coming, it's coming. Stop saying that, please. It's not coming. It only comes when you make it solid and make it fact. You don't want a fact like that in the timeline, even though the fact of it is a watershed event, a changing of the energies that backwashed all that junk back when the rest of that was implanted in there, like a wave. That's what I've been picking up on, and that's what you psychics that are hearing this are picking up on. It's a backwash. Get rid of the backwash and build all of the backwash out of that energetic cycle. You're going to see the real thing. But also on top of that, why would you want to see the real thing? Just live up to that point. It's 2023. This is 2020. Why would you care what was going to happen there? Live now. And I know many people are wanting to know what's going to happen, what's coming. And I know things with aliens, disclosure, all that stuff's going to eventually happen, in a little bit later time frame from that. Don't even focus on that. Focus on now. How you want to shape things now, yourself and the environment around you now. And if a fellow psychic gets a blurb about what we have just before mentioned, don't ignore it. Like, we're not ignoring it, but don't make it a concrete fact that you would see in a history book somewhere. Say, and this is the period where there was political unrest, civil war, and people died. The end. No, you don't want that. And too many other channelers were talking about a civil war in this country. No, you don't want a civil war. You want to report on what you're seeing, but don't deliver it to the public as if it's the nightly news. Say that this is what has come up. Do not co-create this information. Do not affirm it as a fact and say, no, you do not want that timeline. You do not want that timeline, and you want to course correct past that. So also I wanted to say that for the Galactic Contribution, this show, I'm going to use a fragment of the energy report. I believe it was from 6/28/2020 that had to do with the changing of the infrastructure, that the forest people came in and gave a magnificent deposition on the changing of the infrastructure that matches up with the Black Death video that we did. And before you say there is a difference, they're saying, oh, things that were tied to cabal interest and negative sponsors, are collapsing. But then we were also talking about the Black Death, about some of these businesses that were being shoved out of the way because they were going to get too powerful. That might sound like a contradiction, but also bear in mind what we said about what karmic cycles and completing of cycles. That's involved in this process as well. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear that it is not a contradiction. It's another facet of the diamond or the crystal. So I will play that fragment for you now of that energy report from our Patreon. All right, I hope you like that little blurb that I put in there from that. I believe that still stood. We revetted it in this day, even though the 28th of June wasn't that far away from now. It's always good to reevaluate the information that's come through. Channelers, constantly reevaluate your information and the sources that you are talking to. That is also a recalibration of the infrastructure, not just with the country, not just with the events that we mentioned before. Reevaluate who you're talking to, what beings you're talking to, why you're bringing them in, and what you're bringing in. Now, the what or the who isn't always necessarily as important as the what, but also pay close attention as to the who you're bringing in, because they will have their own agenda. They will want to co-create something through you and get you to deliver it through to the masses. Do not allow that to happen. Constantly revet the information and revet it, meaning intuitively with your discernment skills. If it feels right in one moment, it may not apply to the next moment. It may not apply to a year from now or 5 years from now, or it may stand the test of time. It may apply 1,000 years from now. That's the information you want to hang on to, is the stuff that's timeless, and the stuff that is in the material that is a constant, that brings in the constant of change. That is what you want. Anything that gets shed, it's supposed to get shed. I've had so many channelings. I have notebooks in this very closet over here of channelings with information that does not apply, nor will ever see the light of day. You don't have to publish everything. Look for the information that applies to the now and that is timeless. You don't have to bring through every moment. The only reason I brought in the 2023 stuff was to show people what was coming to me, and to not be afraid of this and not to co-create it. That's why I bring that stuff through now. And the collapsing of the infrastructure, we want to explain why this is taking place, and with the energetic infrastructure completely overhauling. That's what we wanted to bring through today. So Joanna, do you have anything else?
No, hopefully we've given you guys a lot to think about and ponder. And, we just wish everybody, of course, the best. And these, yes, you may feel these are challenging times, but these are the times we wanted to come. So here we are. So I think we just have an ending affirmation and prayer, which goes as the following. The best flowers grow of the remains of the past season and the whispers of the wind of creative truth. Be strong and brave as you bloom anew.
So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode, enjoyed the material. Within it, we strive to bring you the truthful information that's not only just in the moment, but what we know of as the truth in the moment. As you say, truth is the truth till a better truth comes along. And this is how we know it to be right now as of 7/5/2020. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.